I'm imagining that most of you are familiar with Pavlov's dog experiment. So, how the discovery that it's possible to train a conditioning between, in this instance, a ringing of a bell and uh, the imagining of the dog that it's going to get some food, which then leads to salivation, because that has been trained. Yeah, so experimenter rings bell, dog gets food. Do that a number of times. After a while, ring the bell, but no food. Dog still salivates, and that's because the dog can make a connection between um, things that are not directly or not directly and immediately related. So you can teach a dog to associate the sound of the bell with food, even though the food hasn't arrived. In the same way, you can teach a dog to go to its bed when it hears the word bed, yeah, or sit, or fetch, or whichever dog command that you'd like to think of. Um, However, that's as far as it goes. So I don't know if you've ever tried to say to a dog, um, uh, fetch and then sit. You try that? Doesn't work. Can't compute because you've got too many things going on in once. It can only make one association at a time. So it seems that dogs' use of association and representation is limited to one connection at a time. Now, see what a young human can do. So probably around the age, I don't know, a couple of years probably, um, a human child starts to make associations that are much more complex. So yes, you could ring a bell, and over time, a small child might associate it with food and salivate in just the same way as the dog. But it can also start to learn that the word bell refers to the object bell, which can make a ringing noise, which can mean dinner. You see how we've got a kind of a set of connections there. So after a while, we might just say the word bell to a young child, and the idea comes up: bell, dinner time, yum yum, salivating. You've got an extra step in them. And it doesn't stop there, because once you've made a couple of connections, you can start to make more and more and more and more connections. So, for example, dinner bell, school bell, bicycle bell, bellboy, bellwether, Belfast. The sound can start to mean many, many different things. The associations actually are infinite, and they've all got different flavors to them. We can start to put sentences together with complex meanings that are trained over a long period of time. So, got this process of education where we learn to make association after association after association. And before long, we can do amazing things. We can do complex maths problems, write novels, plan cities, communicate whole philosophies using this representational power of language. And it's because the associations that we can make are really unlimited. So I want to just try a little experiment with this. I've never done this before, so we'll see if it works. So I want you to invite you to write in the chat here a word, any word, any word in English, so that I can understand what it means. But just any word you like. And what I'm going to see if I can do is see if I can make a connection between each word and the next. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, because you're going to make it really difficult for me now. Okay, so here they come. Lovely. Yeah. All right. So what have we got? Okay, so we've got greenhouse and rain. Okay, well, that's easy, because the greenhouse protects plants. And so it's about weather, and rain's a part of weather. And rain cake, well, when the cricket is rained off, we might all go in for cake, which will make us happy, and we might make friends while we're in there. And so it then doesn't really matter who's victorious in the cricket match. Um, and there might be peanut sandwiches as well as cake in the pavilion. Um, and there might be a mountain of crisps as well, mountain of crisps to choose from, um, which which the cat probably wouldn't eat if we left it for the cat afterwards, because I don't think cats usually like crisps, although they might have a nibble at it. Um, but the cat might actually sometimes scratch at the wallpaper, and we might have to put new wallpaper up after a while because it's scratching. But we might have to decide to put new wallpaper in. Yeah, okay. Is that all of them? Yeah, I think it is, isn't it? Okay, so you see how we can do this, yeah? Make connections in our heads between different representational squiggles that come up as concepts, and we can string all these things together to make sense of things. Very, very powerful ability, and no other animal can do this. So, as far as I understand it, no other creature has been shown to be able to make more than one connection at a time. They've done experiments to sort of test this out. But suddenly, as human beings, we can make one, then another, and daisy chain them together. However, this also creates some problems for us because it means that we can create scenarios that are just in our heads. So, for example, a job interview. There might be one that we had last week that we felt didn't go really well, and we can replay it over and over in our heads and feel kind of low mood, regret, maybe even kind of still anxiety, wanting to go back there and try to make it better. Or maybe we've got a job interview next week and we spend our time ruminating, planning over, what we need to say and shouldn't say, and worrying about how it's going to go and all the follow-on consequences of either getting the job or not getting the job. So we can see how we can trigger feelings in our bodies by this power of association, power of imagination, and being able to daisy chain all of this stuff together. Now, of course, another problem is that it's much easier to store a negative association than a positive one. There's a famous psychology paper called something like, bad is 5 times stronger than good. And so we're more likely to lay down associations if they are threatening than if they are pleasant, which is a good survival mechanism because that's what protects us. But it means that we're more likely to make an association strong, or it's more likely to be made more strongly if it's unpleasant for us. So over time, we develop these patterns, these mental models of experience that are based on what we've been trained in, whatever that is. And of course, this will depend on our background, our culture, our education, what we end up kind of choosing to believe. There's all sorts of factors that are involved in this. So this can have a huge effect on our experience. It effectively creates our worldview or worldviews. None of this needs to be a problem. In fact, as we see, it's hugely powerful. But if we don't know that's what's happening, we're going to then be driven by it. So where mindfulness comes in here is the willingness to look at our associations, the willingness to look at how our thoughts can lead to feelings, and our feelings indeed can lead to thoughts because it works the other way around too. And to bring awareness to these patterns. Now, that's quite difficult because it's so powerful that over time we become more and more fused with it, with our thinking as a species. And so it's like we're sort of seduced by the power of it, but that also means we get stuck with the suffering of it. But if we can train our attention in a new way to return to um, the senses, and in this sense, it's a bit like coming back to being the dog, coming back to being sensory. That doesn't mean the dog's mindful, by the way. Some people often say, well, my dog's really mindful. It just lives in the present moment. Well, in one sense, the dog's in the present moment, certainly, because it's not making those mental associations in the same way, or only very simple ones. But of course, it's very reactive. But what we have is this quality of awareness that we can bring to the ideas if we can step out of them to watch them and can choose to bring our attention to where we want it to go. And it just so happens that the senses are a great place to come to because they don't foster these, cognitive proliferations. The body's always in the present moment. So with our meditation practice, actually, if we keep coming back, if we keep noticing the patterns that are formed, we can gain more choice about whether to believe them or not to believe them. We can still use their power. We can still enjoy the capacity that they give us to communicate, to create, to plan, to learn, without needing necessarily to be so caught in the associations that aren't so helpful, or maybe that are biased, not even true, because we've only kind of maybe we were trained in a way that wasn't actually connected with reality, or we've been biased in the way that we've held on to them. So we can see the stories that are created in our mind as stories, and maybe even over time we can start to create new ones. But in the meantime, at least to be able to step out of those ones that we have and start to watch them rather than being driven by them. So this is where a practice of anchoring comes in. And very often kind of a first mindfulness practice will be that we'll learn will be an anchoring practice, because that brings us into the present moment. It teaches our mind to stay in one place when the tendency is for it to be carried away by the mental proliferations, to stay in one place. And from here, we might be able to see more and more clearly this process. So that's why a dog doesn't ruminate, the human does, and also what we can how we can start to work with that in a skillful way using our mindfulness practice. I'm just going to pause the video here.